Welcome to Conversations with. On this show, my guests and I explore the bumps and triumphs of their journey to extract the gems from their experiences because success leaves clues, and today we turn those clues into billboards for you. I'm your host, Gene Bernier, founder of Peeled Back, speaker and coactive coach, guiding leaders to pursue a life worth living. Hey everybody, welcome to the show today. Today we are diving into the world of efficient project management with Moriah Bacus. With over 2 decades of diverse experience, Mariah has mastered the art of breaking projects into manageable chunks, setting up success-driven systems, and bulldozing roadblocks that stand in the way of progress. From her journey as a habits coach to the birth of Vibe High, her venture to aid overwhelmed professionals, Mariah advocates a balanced lifestyle as the backbone of a thriving business. Today, she's here to share insights on transforming vision into tangible achievements without losing your sanity in the process. Mariah, thank you so much for being on the show. My words definitely can't do you
Oh, thank
justice.
you so much for the kind intro and thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited for this chat.
Likewise, we've connected over Instagram, LinkedIn, and have been supporting one another for some time. So it's about time we do one of these. So let's get a little bit about into your journey from project management to habits coach to where you are now, Vibe High. Where did it all begin?
Great question. I spent about 10 years in event management, self employed, and then for my dream employer at the time, which was the Convention and Visitors Bureau for Toronto. And that was a lot of fun. But after 10 years, I was experiencing a lot of burnout. Event management, surprisingly, is in the top 5 stressful jobs after emergency responders and things of that nature. So I decided to change it up to give myself a bit of a break for mental health reasons. And I decided to move into a career in HR. So completely changed direction. I'd gone back to school for that. And I switched into a role at an event management and association management company. Thought, okay, it's a good progression. I know how to hire for these roles because I've done these roles myself and that sort of thing. So I was really learning on the job. Unfortunately, COVID struck and my job was eliminated as part of that restructuring that they did at that time. And so I found myself having to look for a new job in a new industry with 1 year of experience. And my past role was a director title. Okay. So no one wanted to hire me or they didn't know what to do with me because they assumed I'd either want a lot of money or I just didn't have enough experience, even for entry level roles. So I really struggled with the job search for about 7 months, and career coaches started vulturing your LinkedIn profile stocks, this and that. And I started to feel a little bit panicked. And here comes in the mutual connection that you and I have. At this point, I had been following Rob Gilbert for about a year on LinkedIn and watching his content, and it just really resonated with me. And if you've seen his content, which I know you have, you really start to develop this parasocial relationship where you feel like you know him. So when I got on the call with him, like there was this instant comfort. And 10 minutes into this call with him, where I was just looking for advice on, can you help me figure out how to hire a career coach? Because I knew he was working with coaches. Or maybe he could recommend me to refer me to one of his newer clients because maybe they'd be more affordable. Okay. So that's what I went into it with. 10 minutes and he's, you don't want to work for anyone else, do you? And so that uncovered this whole opportunity. Yeah, I'd had some resistance towards the job search. It wasn't just not being accepted or being rejected, is that I wasn't even sending out all the applications I should have been. So as we talked about it more, he suggested coaching and had I ever thought about it? And I hadn't. But I had done a lot of work in my personal life, breaking bad habits and building healthy new ones. And he thought, okay, maybe there's something there. You can help other people with it. That night, I decided I was going to work with him before we even had our second call. And I got on the call with him and it was pretty much take my money. It was the last of my savings, I'll be honest with you. So I was really putting it all on the
Yes.
line at that point and needed to make it work. And so we started working
Well,
together.
yeah,
And then I launched a habits
I,
coaching
I
business.
want to touch on that point
Yeah.
here before there's first off, shout out to Rob. He is incredible, and I like the way he presents his content is him in his wholeness. So I understand he's definitely sets the bar very high. But the one thing about there was one question he asked you about going, do you really want to work for somebody else? Where did that initially land for you? Was there resistance to it when that came up, or were you like, oh, he sees
It
me?
was number two. I was like, it was like he saw me and he saw it in me before I even had consciously registered that was what was happening.
And the and then you decided that evening, "I'm going in. I'm going to spend the money, make the investment in myself,
Mm,
and go for it." What's the process that you went through, like, to get to that point? Because as you shared, it was the end of your savings,
mm,
taking a big leap.
mm.
What did you have to believe in what he saw in that moment and what you could believe in yourself to make that
I read something recently about coaching and that our role is to hold space for others until they can hold space for themselves. Yeah. And I think he saw something in me. He saw potential before I saw it. I really took that leap based on the feeling that I got from him. And I felt based on seeing his results and the conversation we had and knowing his journey where he had come from and what he was able to make happen for himself, it instilled such a sense of faith and confidence. And it was a leap, but for some reason I just trusted that it was going to be the right decision. And I had a really good gut feeling about it. And I'll share more about that later, but
Yeah.
I just knew that he and I were going to do amazing things together, even from then.
Was trusting your gut something that you were accustomed to in your previous decisions? Or was this something like a bit of a, "Oh, what's happening?
It,
I'm hearing this."
I have a long history of personal trauma in my life, which made it hard for me to trust myself. Also, I had been taking in a lot of other limiting beliefs that people had projected on me. I don't make decisions quickly. And I had been told at my previous job, oh, you're slow or whatever the case is. So I had all of this stuff like I had layered on, other people had layered on. I didn't know how to trust myself. So it was only through him seeing that in me that, okay, I went with it. And I developed the self trust later on.
Yeah. That's rep 1 of going, "Can I trust myself?" And there's a component of it within what I hear here is there's a piece of you that borrowed the trust that Rob saw and be like, "If he can see this, maybe I can just hold on and accept that he sees this." And that seemed to be am I maybe not reading between the lines?
No,
I'm
that's
seeing a
correct.
nod
That's
there.
correct. And it's also, he highlighted for me that a lot of the strategies and tactics that I had put into place for myself in terms of breaking habits and building new habits were actually strategies out there in the world. For example, that appeared in Atomic Habits. I had never read it, but I had figured out these things. And so I think him highlighting that for me, you're doing all the things without even knowing that these are actual strategies out there in the real world. You figured it out and put these things into place. And I think that gave me more confidence in myself. Oh, it's not something I have to go out and learn and figure out. Like, I already know how to do this instinctually.
Mm.
So, him highlighting that for me also helped give me more faith and confidence in my abilities.
It's like you were now he gave you a new reframe, a new perspective to view all of you from and going, "Oh, I can do this."
Yeah.
So you've said yes to Rob. You've taken the leap of trust within yourself for this first time going, "I'm gonna trust my gut, try it." Where did you land? What did you learn on that process of being in the leap?
A lot. The biggest area of growth for me in that process was sharing my personal story, which I had never shared publicly before. And it's potentially quite heavy for some people, and it wasn't something I had necessarily processed for myself. So, to give you context, I was born into a high control religious cult, and I left when I was 20. And it was because of my experience with that group that I really didn't have emotional coping skills. And it led to things
Mm,
like addiction and so on. And me being invited or challenged to share that story was the most stressful, anxiety inducing experience I could ever imagine because it meant that estranged family members might see my story, people from the church, former employers would learn about my history with addiction, which they didn't know about. it was opening up a whole can of worms. So that was the biggest area of growth for me. I had always put a very censored version of myself online, and people had commented, they know me. Why don't you show like the real you? And I just never felt comfortable. So that was probably the biggest area of growth for me. I found a Facebook group which is catered to members, ex-members of this organization that had over 7,000 members in it. And I was invited to share my story there. And it was huge and crazy, but once I got that out of the way, it became so much easier to share my story. I would have, and that changed everything for me in my life. Part of sharing my story actually helped me with a lot of the healing that I didn't realize I still needed
Mhm.
to do. Maybe it wasn't the best way to go about doing the work, but it happened in the process. And like none of that would have ever been possible if I hadn't committed to trying this new thing and really putting myself out there.
Thank you for
You're
sharing
welcome.
that,
I know
and
that was a
I
lot. So I'll let
without
you sit
knowing
with
the
it.
depths. No, not at all, but that's what this show's all about is really is the conversations of where we have our bumps and how we're turning those into triumphs and for what you've accomplished through it, and I wanna recognize the importance of sharing those stories and the bravery and courage it takes to actually do that is massive. And to be like, instead of being a curated version of myself, I'm willing to put my wholeness out there, warts and all, here we go. And knowing there are other people out there who don't yet know how to have that courage to face that, to hear it go, I'm not the only
Yeah.
one. It's not just me,
Yeah.
whatever that is. And to be able to serve in that way, I just want to commend you and acknowledge you for taking that big step because somebody else probably who never commented, never hit watched it and went, holy crap,
Thank you.
what if that could be me?
I appreciate that. I knew from one perspective, if anyone was going to choose to work with me, they would want to know what leg does she have to stand on? Like, how did she learn how to do, like, how can I trust that she's going to help me with this deep, dark habit that I'm not sharing with anyone?
Yeah.
So I needed to be able to tell my story 100% authentically so that when someone came to me for help to stop eating bread so much, they'd feel completely comfortable sharing that with me because I talked about drug addiction. So I wanted to
Right.
share it so that people could not feel like their thing was so big and bad and scary, and also to give myself a little bit of credibility to show that I have made these massive changes that a lot of people don't come back from these situations or they go down and other things happen, but I was able to build my life back up. So yeah, telling the story authentically was critical for that so that people could trust in me, in my experience and skills, but so that they also felt safe.
You talked about building that container
Mm,
and being able to say, here I've been, here's where I've been. We can now appreciate the size of this container that I'm willing to stand in. You may feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to be here and seeing you for all that you are.
yeah, you got it.
That's sums up coaching in a nutshell. It's like being there. The question that keeps coming up as I'm hearing your story is your evolution of understanding how to be authentic and what did that word actually come to resonate and be within you as you grew into this from the where you were from taking the leap to where you are now?
The first thing I'm thinking is it's still a journey. Look, I come from a corporate background. In person, I tend to be really casual, informal. In writing, it's another story. It's like corporate speak. So it's still a journey. Not to say that it's inauthentic, but the way I show up online is far closer to the real me. And I'm comfortable sharing things now that I wouldn't ever have talked about before. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, for me, where I see that kernel is for somebody else listening is like that on just being authentic with yourself
Mm,
in itself is a journey, right? Because
mm,
we're all on a different part of our chapter where we're ready to be authentic. And authentic sometimes is a curated spot because you don't know how what's on the other side of it. And so that's being authentic, or it's going, here's everything and I'm owning it. Emotions, feelings, and not giving an F about it. And it's all the way it's a spectrum and practicing it and learning it. And I like that you said it's a journey. I think it is a journey of learning to be authentic and learning how to communicate what that means to you.
Mm.
Also being understanding the impact and the understanding of the people that you're choosing to share it with.
You're making me think of a few other things that happened along the way in terms of being authentic. And I think you mentioned being authentic with myself. So journaling was a big part of that. And this is going to sound a little out there, but I actually picked up tarot as not a way to divine the future, but a way to help me bring out the intuitive messages for myself that I already had in here. And so I actually studied
Mm,
tarot for about a year, doing daily card pulls and then journaling about what that meant for me. So I used it as a tool to help understand myself more and to bring out whatever was subconscious that I wasn't consciously acknowledging. And I found it to be a very helpful tool. And then combining that with journaling. And I was very fortunate. I also had this was during the pandemic in the height of it. It was the 2020 into 2021. So I had a lot of great coaches and friends around me that I was like constantly on WhatsApp group chats or on Zooms, coffee meetups. So there was always really good support from friends or like minded coaches around me to help with that too, reflect things to me and
right.
whatnot.
There's another component of the growth is as you went through this authentic shift and taking the leap, how did that change the way that you built the people that you wanted to spend time with, elect, or keep them close?
The people that I work with or spend time with, that has definitely shifted. I have much higher standards now for the people I allow into my life, as well as for the clients who decide to work with me. When we're first starting in any business, it's very tempting and sometimes necessary to just say yes to the first few clients that come forward because you just need to make the money. You need to pay the bills and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. I did have some situations where it went sideways and I had to make like tough calls and not work with those clients anymore. So the process is I've developed self trust, but I've also developed self esteem, self confidence, which all filter down from self love. These are things that
Mhm.
now, because I love myself, coming from a high control organization, focus is not on you as an individual. You're there to serve others and put yourself last. So having to shift my perspective that improved the quality of my life because I no longer accepted toxic, narcissistic behavior, whether that was clients or friends or relationships. And as a result of that, the quality of my life keeps improving. And now I do look at every friendship, relationship through this filter of, is this person going to contribute to my life? Is this client going to make me feel seen, valued, respected? Are they going to energize me? Those sorts of things. And
Right.
it's been a lot easier as a result to be able to make a call more quickly when something isn't working out exactly the way we would have hoped. Whereas in the past, I would have just sat with the stress and the agony and the heartache and complaining to people and not making a decision to do something good for myself and fix the situation. So, yeah, there's been a lot of growth around that.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that, and I think there's a that last piece there where when you're not making that decision, but those pieces of you causing the stress, the anxiety, sitting with in the doorway between making a decision, a yes, no decision of any shape, that's the most painful place to be. Like indecision is the worst because as soon as you made those decisions, sounds like you were able to start to move in whatever direction a little bit more trustingly. And the other part for early entrepreneurs that are listening,
Mhm.
you're gonna say yes to clients that you just don't know yet that you shouldn't say no to.
Exactly.
And that's gonna come along that's part of that journey is like Mariah got from that though, is learning how to deal with them. And the only way to learn to deal with it is actually have to deal with it. And the first time's gonna be sloppy,
Mhm.
and the second time might be a little less sloppy, and then you're gonna start to figure out, "How do I say yes to the right people?" And there's a lot of power in flat out saying, "I only work with these people.
Yeah.
Are you one of them?" And they can self-select.
It's like with anything, learning and, like, being able to see red flags, warning signs, that sort of thing a lot earlier on. And I have put a lot more of a focus even over this last year around how do I ensure to the best of our ability that the client is aware of what my values are before we even get on this call so they know what
Mm,
my expectations are. So it's something I post about. I'll be posting it again about soon, and it's loud and clear on my website. The first one is integrity, you
yes.
know, and collaboration. And so it goes to that thing of, yes, I'm in service to my clients, but I also want to be seen and valued and respected for my input. Because again, my role is dual in that I'm coaching, but I'm also providing project management services. So I do need them to put a bit of trust in me and follow a bit of guidance on that path too.
Right.
Yeah.
And wearing all those hats and understanding how to make those shifts and when you're doing the coaching, when you're doing the project management. Let's talk about that shift. In the journey, we went from making the leap, Rob, seeing something within you to say, "Hey, have you thought about coaching? You've done a lot of habit reformation and work, and you didn't even know that there was a name to it. So you've paid for it, you've done the thing. Now you're in as a habits coach. Take us forward from
Oh,
there."
that was an exciting time. I was, like, writing my program as people were signing up and having the material ready right before they were ready for that module, so it was very I spent head down for a few months on that. And it was really awesome because so many former colleagues and contacts from the events industry came forward. And at the time, that was really exciting because I know that a lot of people working in events had a really tough go during the pandemic and were dealing with things like having picked up a lot of bad habits, being at home, eating, drinking, all of that stuff that a lot of folks were dealing with. It was a good opportunity. So I started working with some folks. I had a beta program and then the full fledged program, and what ended up happening was a lot of these clients just started asking me for tips on getting organized and time management. I have a background as an executive assistant and things like that. So they were asking me for more of that type of support. I had clients who were still working off paper calendars on their desk and wondering why they were like getting double booked all the time. So it was like helping them get onto like electronic calendars and things like that. I started getting more and more requests for that kind of help. And then I started bringing on like admin clients and project management clients. Rob asked me for support on the project management side. So I helped project manage his book, Die Before They Do, which was awesome. And then, truth be told, habits work is not for the faint of heart. It's not something that a lot of people are like eager to go sign up for and things like that. And in the process of working with the first few clients and so on, I realized that I might not necessarily be in the right position to support some of these people and that they needed a different kind of support before they came to me first to work through some things. I did end
Right.
up with some clients who were ready to, like, they were already here and ready to take it to the next level. But by that time, I was tired of standing on the habit soapbox because it was all I was talking about. And the BA, the admin side and the project management side was picking up so much steam. I decided to kind of transition into that completely. And so much so that I ended up needing to hire freelance VAs to support me, not only with my work, but with some of the client work too. So then that takes us into May 2021, where I realized I just want to maybe make an agency. Okay, this is something you'll learn about me, Jean. Like, I just am constantly reinventing. Even what I'm doing now will probably look completely different in a year from now. I'm like, I'm gonna have a VA agency. And so that's what I did. And at a point I had like 12 clients on admin or creative services and a team of 7 freelancers, which was wild and exciting, but I was pulled in way too many directions and had to be an expert in things that I just wasn't an expert in. And so
Right.
then I was like, "Oh, I've just created a job for myself here, essentially, and this isn't what I wanted to be doing." I didn't want all these reports, all these points of contact. So at that point, I was like, "Oh, okay, it's time to again revise this and scale back." And that's when I developed. my Get Big Shit Done package, which is this combination of project management and accountability coaching, and launched that officially this past May.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I love that you're reinventing yourself all the time. It's fun. Yeah, there's also a process. I think it's Tony Robbins says, "Can I?" It's a constant and never-ending
Yeah.
improvement. Finding those places of saying, "Hey, I took the leap. I'm doing this habits thing. Oh, it's working. But now people are asking me for these other things, and I can actually serve them there. Okay, now that's working. Now that's picking up steam." And back to Rob's question, did you wanna work for somebody? You became your own boss. You're like, "Oh, I wanna switch this around and still have some enjoyment and really get into what I'm doing and serve from this place," and constantly just going, "What are they asking me for?"
Mm.
And that ties back to listening to your customers and listening to your clients is like, "What are they actually asking me for?" People that are choosing to work with me, am I open to it, or am I really, like, too connected to my own product? And what I hear from you, Mariah, is, like, all of that was never was held with loose hands, that you were able to say, "Hey, we might be onto something different, and it's okay for what we had before to go away."
It's funny because in the first few sessions with Rob, he invited me to write down some business ideas and what could possibly be there. And from the beginning, I had written project management. So that, like, this is going back a couple years now. So it has, in a sense, it's
Yeah,
almost like I knew I was going to be good at that. And it came around to that
yeah,
in the end. So I feel like I'm really close to it being like the thing. It's taken this
yeah,
long. Yeah. And to be honest, my whole life has just been trial and error. And I think one of the reasons I'm here on this earth is to make the messy mistakes and then share it with people so that they can have the learnings and maybe not have to go through the same pain and heartache I had. And I am more than happy to be that person.
right. And we're all going through it,
Mm,
and by you saying, "Hey, I'm willing to learn from it," all of a sudden it starts to set a precedent for somebody else that's watching going, keep hitting these things. I don't like it. Oh, I could learn from this instead of being in pain from this, or one of the other many perspective reframes that are
yeah.
available within
It's
that.
the hugest it's one of the best tools in my tool belt to move on quickly from a disappointment or a failure. I used to sit in that energy forever. And as soon as I
Mm.
learned that the quicker you can look for the learning here, it's not looking for a silver lining or any of that, but it's like, what is the learning? And the quicker I could set out to find that learning and define what that was, it made it so much easier to just move on from that thing and then move on to something that was more productive. Yeah, that's a big piece of advice is just as quick as you can switch to what is the learning here.
Eh, but I also hear there's some honoring of what has
Mm,
happened though too, right? I like that you said it's not about just trying to find the silver lining, because like constant positivity is actually not super healthy. It's what are you avoiding from that?
mm,
But by saying, "Hey, I'm not looking for the silver lining. I'm looking for what I can learn from this." And maybe the learning is really painful too, or maybe it's super great, but it's like, where are we going to go different from here? This sucked, or this was good, or whatever it was, all the multitude of the emotions, and going, but it's now done.
yeah,
And I can take what I need from it and I can go forward.
yeah. It completely shifts things. It turns that sense of disappointment into, "Oh, I have data. I have data now, and I know
Yeah,
what I'm gonna do differently next time." Yeah, I find it hugely motivating.
that's incredible. So now that you've made the shift, you're doing project management. What is it like now to run your company from this place of going, "I'm really close to, I think this is the thing."
It is so fantastic and fun. Like, I have so much fun with my clients. I have always really enjoyed being the person behind the person. And I don't mean that in a self deprecating way, but I love
No, I
being
get
able to support people and push them forward and upwards towards their success. So, just like the potential that Rob saw in me, I love being able to help other people see that potential in themselves and then hold themselves accountable and then, like, together celebrate what we were able to accomplish together.
I love how you lit up with that.
Yeah, it's even like I mentioned, working on Rob's book, it was a completely new experience for me. I had not done any of that before. The learning that happens on the job is incredible. Like, I used to always be in school while I was working because I just loved learning and I loved being in school. And so now I'm in the super fortunate position. This is one of the biggest perks of my career now, that I get to learn on the job from these amazing coaches and consultants who have been at this for far longer than I have, right? So yeah, they're paying me, but I'm getting a master class like every day from these folks. I'm not kidding you. And then the other part to that, which has always been really important to me, is I used to volunteer a lot and mentor and give back and have interns in my event business. And so now I'm able to take what I'm learning from the clients that I work with, as well as the things that I'm learning, and pass that on to the VAs that work with me. And Jonalyn, I have to give her a shout out. My God, my heart. She's so amazing. She's learning so much about coaching. Like, she's actually gone and upgraded her education and is attending workshops hosted by coaches because she's all wrapped up in this world now too, and loves it too. So I just being in the middle of that, having these awesome downloads, but then being able to support someone else's growth and development that who's helping me is just huge. I get so much fulfillment from that.
It shows. Like, simply, it shows with how much you enjoy
Mhm.
doing what you're doing, and I think that is as well. I like the part where you're surrounding yourself with the types of clients that you get energized from. You get these master classes from all their own individual expertise and industries and bringing it down, and as a project manager, we have to be continually looking around for ways to improve
Yes.
and what's other pieces from other
Yeah.
industries that can help serve over here and what are all that stuff, right? It's you are very when you're in service land, you're constantly learning and understanding how to apply it elsewhere.
You hit the nail on the head. One of my biggest strengths is the ability to synthesize all this random information and pull it together into something meaningful. It's either something we're going to use in the future or it's solving a current problem. And I love being able to do that. And yeah, definitely having the exposure. I'm working with another great coach, Massimo Bacus, and the stuff I'm learning about compassionate leadership, it's just, where would I ever learn this? Where would I ever be able to pick this up? It's making me a better leader. It's making me a better person. Like, I can't say enough good things about my clients. Sorry.
And I've seen the testimonials, they say the same thing
Uh,
back to you, right? So, there's a very reciprocal relationship there when you do actually love them and being the person that gets to stand behind them going, "This isn't my rock concert, this is yours, but I'm here to help support." So when you're on stage, you are a rock star, regardless of being a coach, project manager, whatever that is like when you take that role in that supportive place, so much good can happen.
yeah, I see my clients as friends, and I know some people might poo that idea, but how can you not become friends after sharing so much and meeting together and working on so many amazing things together? And in fact, I only want clients that I would feel like, yeah, I would like for this person to be a friend, or else why would we won't jive, we won't hit it off. I think it should be
Yeah.
someone that I want to spend time with because I will be meeting with you 4 days a week. We better like each other.
And there's a component of respect within
Mhm.
that as well, and understanding in that support role as a coach, as a project managers. Sometimes you got to say that you're not delivering the best
Yeah.
news, and being able to handle that in that respectful way, and going, "Look, what do you want to do with this?
Yeah.
This is back on you.
Mm,
Here's how we move
mm.
forward. We're not going to stay in indecision as your coach or as your project manager and liaison. We've got to move. You've got things to accomplish. We're here for whatever
Yeah,
happens."
I'm all about having fun and being friends with my clients. Don't get it twisted. I know how to project manage too and make sure these things stay on track. But I think that's the beauty of this, is that I think a lot of people might think, oh, accountability coach, project manager, this person's going to be hurt. And I know when to be that person, but I approach it from a place of compassion and putting myself in their shoes and understanding all of the various dynamics and things they have going on. So my approach is not, oh, you skipped that one day and giving them a lecture. That's not my approach. I'll say, okay. And then the next day, if if it doesn't happen again, I'll say, okay. And then the third day, I might say, okay, so what do we have to do to make this easier for you? Or what's getting in the way of this happening? Or those types of questions to help them work through the roadblocks. I think that's the part that makes it a lot more approachable is how I approach the work. I'm not a hard and I like to have fun with this. And that's what makes accountability doable when you know that you have a
Yeah.
supportive accountability partner and not someone who's going to give you a hard time about it.
This is your time to be, not to be humble, but let's share what's happening with Vibe High. Who's the right clients and how can they get in touch with you?
Awesome. Oh, so right now I have my package Get Big Shit Done, which allows us to set up project lists, anything that you're working on in your business. So day-to-day tasks as well as major projects. We meet together daily to make sure you're actually getting things done on those and help work through any roadblocks. I also do standalone project management services. The right clients for me are clients who are committed, who have integrity, who like to have a collaborative approach, and who are ambitious. I love working with clients who have their hands in multiple things. So, like for yourself, you also have a podcast, right? There's clients who are also writing books. And that's the most exciting thing is helping people reach towards those more stretch goals outside of their day to day. I'm also offering my free workshop again, which is Ditch the Overwhelm and Get Shit Done. That'll be on November 8th at two different times. And there I will be sharing a bit more of my story, but also we get to do some time blocking in real life on the call together. So we learn about that as a strategy, why it's helpful, and then actually spend the time putting it into place.
Awesome. And all those links will be down below. We'll make sure to give a shout out for the upcoming
Thank you.
workshops. Right. Thank you so much for sharing today. I have one last question before I let you get on with the rest of your
Okay.
day. So we're going to step into my time machine. We're going to go into the future by 10 years. When the door opens, there's future you. What does she say thank you to you for?
She says, thank you for trusting your intuition and letting it be your North Star.
That really resonates with everything you shared here today. Thank you so much. And to everybody else, I hope that you trust your intuition and go towards your North Star. And until next episode, my name is Gene, and this is Conversations with. We'll talk to you all later. Oh, one last thing. It's the legal language. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.